Hi, Andrea. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nitin. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, Andrea. It's always a pleasure to connect with you and learn from you. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The feeling is mutual. Appreciate it.
Wonderful, Andrea. So, Andrea, for our viewers that may not know you or may not be as familiar with you, would you please introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background and current role?
Yeah, absolutely. I am Andrea Krohnberg. I am a CX professional that has been in this space for more years than I care to admit. But my entire career has been focused around the customer. Now, early days that look different than where I'm at today, but it's always been around trying to understand who our customers are, what emotionally and rationally motivates them, and then how do you as an organization start to build your services and solutions around them. So taking very much that outside in look. And so I've been in a number of different roles, but for many years, it's been in the customer experience space, helping organizations there. In my most current role, I am with a global staffing firm, Kelly Services, and I am the Global Director of Customer Insights and Experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrea. So, Andrea, given your diverse and rich background and now your current role as well, when your leadership come to you, what are they expecting from you? Or when they say, "Great job, Andrea," what is it that you do that prompts them to say that?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. I think, it can depend on the situation, but if you take it up to the macro, the highest level, really, success for me and for my team's work and what we're doing is really about helping that organization, helping us get away from the way we've always done things in the past, very internally focused, and instead bring in, almost weaving into the DNA of the culture, a very inherent desire to serve the customer. So that customer centric mindset, if we can get that, if I can be in a meeting and someone to say, wait a minute, Andrea, would our customers think are we serving them best? That's when I know we have success, because we're thinking first of the people that we're serving as opposed to us. Now, I'm not saying we can't think about us as organizations. We're in business for reasons, but our business will only truly be successful if we start with that customer-centric mindset. So at the end of the day, I think if my leadership tells me, we're really thinking customer first and the actions are coming through, not just rhetoric, I'll take that as a win.
Excellent point, Andrea. In your role, when you are helping internal teams get more customer centric, can you talk a little bit about what a day in your life looks like? What challenges do you face, and how are you advising and guiding your internal teams?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's one typical day that I have, but when you boil things down, really what it comes down to is we're trying to balance understanding the needs of our customers, who the organization is serving, but also the business needs. So the people that are within our business units or that are in the corporate functions, what are they being held responsible for? And do they see that connection between their work and the customer that we're serving? So a lot of our efforts on a day-to-day basis are helping to bring, or maybe shine a light is a better way to say it, shine a light on what are the emotional and rational needs of our customers. And then how do we start to take that information and really work with them or for them? I think about it of, you can be in a finance structure or business unit and you never touch the end customer. But the way that you report on the numbers, can you bring a human element to it? Or do you understand why people make the purchases the way they do? So we can connect everybody to that. So for me, our day is just getting people to understand who we're serving. And then through experience design, starting to say, what can we do better? What actions can we take? And then, of course, the ever important, are we getting the results? Are we tying back to financials? And that, I think, is an often underutilized or under talked about aspect of a CX position. what is that financial connection that we have going through? So it's very much a part of our day-to-day lives.
I am really connecting everything with everything that you've said, Andrea, and I really want our viewers to also focus on your comments. So I'll double click on them a little bit. Especially this part about when you talk about customer centricity, what I heard you say was, how do you get different stakeholders and internal teams to look at the customer, even those that may not be in direct contact, like in finance, for example. And I think that is such an important point. Something that we do in our practice, Andrea, and I wanted to share this as an experience share for our viewers as well, is one key way that we get internal stakeholders involved when we are doing any type of a research or CX or journey mapping project is we will begin with doing a hypothesis workshop with internal stakeholders. And that's a best practice, and that's a best practice in the CX community as well. Mm-hmm. But I want to highlight that for our viewers. What happens in these workshops, Andrea, as you may also know, is you'll have these different stakeholders, different department heads come in. And in our workshops, Andrea, especially in journey projects, we'll tell people, look, we're here to better understand the customer journey from your viewpoint, your lens. We'll even go into these meetings having a hypothesis map of the customer's journey that is just based on our understanding from their data or whatever the client has told us. And so in those meetings, we tell them, look, we are not the experts over here in your customer journey. You guys know what your customers, what their journeys look like, right? So help us butcher this map. And we get them talking about the different stages. And that's when magic begins to happen, Andrea, where we'll have somebody from marketing stand up and say, well, in this stage, I feel what you have is right, but I think what you're missing is X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. But then you'll have somebody in ops or sales get up and say, well, I never thought of it like that. I always thought that the reason this stage looks like this is because this is what the customer is expecting from us at that stage. And then there's this, like, you can see light bulbs going on, but it's like, I never knew that you viewed, the customer this stage in this way. So it starts from being a hypothesis setting workshop or a hypothesis validation workshop, and it becomes a team building exercise, right? Where now everybody is looking at the viewpoint of, well, this is how I view it, and it's not incorrect, but I never knew that, so it's perspective and reframing everything happening. And so when you made your comments, that was something I wanted to just highlight for everyone, that is so, so critical. You cannot have customer centricity if different teams and different stakeholders are just continuing to look at the customer journey from their silo, and they don't have this unified perspective.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm smirking because there were years ago when I was in my consulting business, or I was working for an agency as a consultant. I was working with a well-known automotive brand, and I was brought in to help them engage their new car buyer and to really understand what that journey was from the time they bought that first car to 2 years later when they were looking to buy their next car, which, side note, I don't buy cars every 2 years. So that was shocking to me. But what they were doing is we were talking with all of these different departments within that automotive company. I think there were like 13 or 14 of them. And everyone had a really well-documented touch point map, journey map. What is this? What is the highs and the lows happening here? But they never talked to each other. So we ended up stacking 13 or 14 different journey maps for the same period, the same customer on top of each other. And wow, was that eye-opening. That it really introduced a lot of good dialogue, because to your point, we broke down the silos, and people were like, I never knew that. I didn't understand it. Tell me more. Why are you doing that? And you got people internally starting to think about it from that one perspective, which was the customer. So fully support that notion, most definitely.
Yeah, and as a lot of us in CX know, and I know you know as well, but what I want to highlight for the viewers is, in improving the customer's experience, a lot of times I've seen, or sometimes companies and organizations and teams get fixated or focused on, well, how can we improve our service, our product, our offering? And the guiding light that we always try to highlight for our clients is, look, the customer is not part of your journey.
Right.
You are part of their journey, and so you have to better understand their journey, their needs, their pain points, and then you can actually optimize their experience. The customer's experience does not get optimized when you are very internally focused. So that's I like I said, I completely concur, and I'm sorry if I went off on a tangent when you talked about customer centricity, but this is the world I live in, as you know.
Absolutely. I love it. I could just talk for days about that stuff. So dive deep if you want to.
Wonderful, Andrea. So let's do that then. Let's talk about an actual journey mapping project that you have done. It doesn't need to be at your present organization. It could be in the past. But could you please walk through our viewers on what was the business challenge that you were trying to solve for, and what steps did you take in understanding the customer journey? If you can flesh that gold out, I think our viewers would be very interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've been doing some journey mapping work where we're at right now. And so we're at various stages of the process. So I think to give you a more complete answer, I'm going to go back a little bit into my history of my career. I was at a large service-based organization offering memberships within the health and well-being space. And the research found our business problem basically was an onboarding retention issue. People were signing up and then dropping off very quickly. We knew if we could get them past a key point in time, they were more likely to stay and continue their subscription, which, being at a nonprofit, it wasn't about the subscription. It was really about the health and well-being of them in the community. So very focused on how do we get people past this hurdle period. So we went in and exactly like you said, we did hypothesis mapping. What do we think is happening in the journey? And when I say we, it was a cross-functional team of people from a variety of departments and different layers in the organization. So people that were hands-on with the members, people that were in the C-suite. We had a variety of opinions and perspectives. We did our hypothesis mapping and lovely, flow coming out of it. Then we went and said, let's actually talk to the members and let's see what their experience and their journey is for the onboarding and what are their emotional needs. And what we did then, coming and bringing it back is we layered in our hypotheses with the actual journey mapping to say, where were we accurate and where were we way off? Now, there were a couple points where we were off, and that typically I find happens no matter when we do this. But at the core, I think we had an understanding. Now, I've heard people say, well, we know well enough. We know our customer is good. We can just go forward without it. And yes, that's true. But do you really intimately know them? And do you know how their circumstances have changed? So it's always good to bring their voice into the conversation. So with that membership experience, we went through and did our journey mapping. We then started to look at and say, what could be future state? Where do we have opportunities to improve? What might we be doing to serve them better? And we started to brainstorm as a multifunctional or cross-discipline team, what are things we could be doing? Ultimately, we then prioritize that into the impact to our members and our effort to execute, and then started going after and assigning groups to take action. And so some of the quick wins, we just knocked those out and did those. But some of the more major projects, what we did is we, created, if we needed to, let's get a little more insights. Let's bring those customers or those members in to understand a little bit more of the nuances here. So we had more in-depth conversations. In some cases, we created something and said, here's kind of what we think we could do to improve this, and got reactions. The point is, we always brought the customer's voice back into the conversation as we were launching things. And then as they went out, we had hypotheses for what we thought the impact would be, so we could then measure against it. And we were then watching against the retention metric as well as the financials. We could maybe improve retention, but if it costs us too much to do that, the cost to serve is out of balance. So that was our process, our philosophy. We ended up coming up with, forgive me, the number I think was 24 or so major initiatives, and we rank ordered them, and we just started going down the list. We only focused on maybe 3 or 5 at a time, so that way we could still stay really focused. And as something was completed, bring something else up onto the list. And so that was how we did that. Lots of success. It's a methodology, I'll say, that I use even to this day. But it's really, to me, the core thread was having the customers brought in throughout, as well as that multi-layered, multi-dimensional team from the organization.
What a great example, Andrea. Thank you so much for sharing. Let me just unpack a few items for our viewers that I think are really, really important. I love the way you went about it. That is a great process. I loved your emphasis in bringing the customer back in and getting the voice of the customer at every stage. That is so, so critical. So many times, Andrea, we get clients where they'll come to us with journey maps that are visually very appealing, and they'll have the words customer journey map written on it. And I'll ask them, this is great. I don't see any end values or any customer inputs. How many customers did you speak to? And they're like, oh, we didn't talk to any customers. We spoke with Sally in ops and John in marketing and just a bunch of us. And we know what the customer wants. And so I don't challenge them at that stage. And then I just ask them, hey, so how has it been going? Why are you reaching out to us? There's something wrong with our journey map. It's not working. We're not getting.
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah. So, I'm laughing because I know you've heard that, but I always get a chuckle out of it because, there is no proxy for the voice of the customer. And so that's something I just wanted to underline in your process for our viewers. So I'm really glad that you did that. Another important aspect, Andrea, that you spoke about that I also want viewers to take note of is tying in the format and the exercise to specific business and financial impact items. That is so, so critical, Andrea, as you know, because so many times we've seen so many well-intentioned projects get launched, and then a lot of investment and resources go into it. And then once the work is done, leadership comes in, takes a look and says, that's great. You guys are not telling me anything I didn't know. Right. Mm-hmm. Or the work gets done and then it just goes on to sit on someone's desk. No action gets taken. And so what you said really connected with me, because this is something that we guide and advise our clients on as well, is when you're embarking on a customer experience or a journey project, it is so, so vital to keep the business impact as a North Star, as a guiding light on the project, and to take it a step further and to also keep in context the financial impact that the project will have, whether it's an increment in sales, a reduction in churn, an increment in customer loyalty, NPS satisfaction, whatever. It needs to be not only be a well-defined business impact item, but I also challenge and encourage our clients to convert that into a dollar amount.
Yes.
And then the research needs to be that needs to be the ROI of that effort. So if it is going to increase share by X%, and that brings in an additional X dollars to the bottom line, well, then that's the justification for doing the work. And I picked up on your comments around it as well, and that's what I wanted to highlight, because if people do it the way you're saying, Andrea, then you don't get called on to justify the ROI of these projects, right? And then internally, it also serves to be uh, a very good guiding tool as the work is being designed, as the research is being planned, because then you don't get into tangents on, well, let's ask them this also, that'll be nice to know, or let's do this as well, because now, you're going off track. So
Absolutely.
I wanted to double click on those items because I know you did it, but I wanted viewers to know why you did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to go a little further on that. So where I'm at right now with Kelly Services, one of our business units, we did a journey mapping exercise last spring, about a year ago actually, and we're still using that. We're still coming back to that to talk about our customer base and saying what are their needs. Obviously, what has changed and what's going on, but it is a little bit of our North Star vision for that. And then to the point of the financial aspect. I'm a huge proponent and advocate of measures like lifetime value and future potential value, because it's the revenue side as well as the cost to serve, and you can look at it in aggregate or down to an individual. So what we want to do is, as we're taking action, because honestly, journey mapping is all about the action that comes after it. So as we're implementing these actions, we can then tie in that financial goal or metric of lifetime value. And this is a living, breathing thing. This isn't a one and done, set it on the shelf and go, whew, glad we did it. How do we keep iterating, keep evolving, and keep tying back to financials? So yeah, and I'm on a soapbox now.
No, I completely concur with you. That is also how we have established our brand. Because a lot of times when we get journey mapping projects to execute on, we'll get these nice looking RFPs, and none of them, Andrea, none of them till date have a financial impact tied to it. And that's something we challenge our clients on. And we tell them, hey, hold us accountable to this, hold us, this work accountable to, if the intent is to grow market share, well, hold this accountable to this. I one time had a client challenge me back and say, well, look, if what happens if you're saying that this work would help us in increasing market share by X%, well, what happens if we don't get it? Right? And I love those challenges. And I said, look, I will take whatever punishment you met out, but then let's not worry about what happens if we don't get there. What rewards will you offer me if we exceed those goals, right? Because I know they're not thinking about the power of this type of work the way we think about it. And so I'm like, look, I want you to challenge us because I know the results will be 10x of this. And that's great if we're having this discussion, because then I want to know how sweet will you make it for me once this goes up. So we laughed, and he's a very good friend of mine. And so but that's really the point I want to highlight, that I would really like CX leaders and marketing leaders to hold their journey work accountable to the business and the financial impact. Because if you do that, you'll be pleasantly surprised, Andrea, as you know, on how much exponential the benefit would be of doing this work, doing it right, doing it the way you've explained it, and getting the voice of the customer in it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a muscle that a lot of CX people don't talk enough, or they don't flex enough, in a topic we don't talk enough about. But if When it comes down to it, a lot of business leaders, CEOs, CFOs, et cetera, they're financially driven. So how are we, being selfish, how are we going to justify our existence within the organization if we're not speaking their language? And so, and then also if we're not financially benefiting, how can we continue to optimize and serve our customers better? So 100%, we need to get to that point. We need to have very strong financial acumen and just that appetite to say, I want to poke my fingers in there. What's going on from the financial perspective? I'm not just a warm, fuzzy discipline. Like, I'm driving the business. We are driving it together. Let's focus on that.
Yeah. And, just to underline this point as well is something that I recommend to a lot of our viewers as well is the way you're able to get more confident about your projections and in making these tie-ups is to do what, Andrea, what you talked about was getting the voice of the customer in and doing it in empirical, in a statistically valid way as well. Mm-hmm. Where if you're doing that research, then if you have the rigor built in, that will make you more confident in making these projections. And that will also make your leadership more confident in the insights and the recommendations that are coming out from this work. So anyways, I know, Andrea, you and I can keep talking about this for days and days because we are passionate about this. But I really wanted viewers to comprehend the value of what you were saying. So thank you for sharing that. Before we end, Andrea, I wanted to ask you one other question. The project you described was great and was a great example of how to do it right. If you had the opportunity to redo this work or do it again in the future, are there any improvements that you would now make to further improve the results?
Oh, there's always opportunity to improve. So yes, I'm just trying to think of, so many going through. But what I would say, the one, if it was immediately today, Andrea, you need to run a new journey mapping exercise to get X improvements going through. I think for me, because I'm always eager to go and I want to, not rush into things, but I want to have speed, a bias towards action. And I think one of the areas where I've run into difficulty in the past, now could just be me, maybe others don't, is I'm very eager to say, let's dive into it. And maybe people are getting brought along because they're being told. So probably should spend a little bit more time just connecting with everybody on the front end with what we're doing, why we're doing it, helping them understand how ultimately this will connect into their job. Because one of the biggest disservices that I could do is drag people through this type of an initiative, as opposed to getting them being eager and wanting to dive into it. So I know I haven't maybe always in the past been the best person of connecting with every individual to say, do you understand how this works, what we're trying to do, how this will benefit you? So that would be one really big hurdle. The other would be, as we're coming out of this, you tend to have a lot of structure and expectations set while you're doing the journey mapping work. But it would be, what are the expectations for us on the back end? Yes, there are projects and actions, but how do we as a collective group come together and start to say, yes, this is what our team has been working on, and this is what this, cross-functional team. So there continues to be that alignment and that conversation of all of those people beyond the project itself. So it's really more about the relationship building. That's where I think I have the biggest opportunity.
Well, Andrea, that's what I love about you. You're so transparent. And thank you for sharing that. Because, I'll share this as well. And I have seen this with not just, because I have the same challenge as well. And I've seen it with a lot of my other colleagues and clients. And one experience shared that I wanted to share with you and our viewers on this is, as our internal role in being the CX expert, or in my role as being a guide to our clients is, I think what you're referring to as engagement or interaction with the internal stakeholders, I I have come to view that, Andrea, in my business as more of really understanding the personal impact that
Yes.
these projects have on our clients. And in your case, your internal stakeholders, for our viewers, who might maybe in similar roles, their internal clients and stakeholders as well. And so while we remain focused on the business impact, I mean, business is personal. And so there's a personal impact as well. And so that is something I have started doing for the last several years, in really understanding with my clients, how does the achievement of the business impact that we're out to achieve, how does that impact them personally? Does it even have a personal impact or not? Right. And I have noticed that when I go about it clinically, but I'm now focused, I put the business impact aside and I'm focused on the personal impact aspect. I have seen that my role as a vendor transforms to now be a guide and a
Okay.
partner, because for me and my clients see that as well. And that's something I just love about this business, because on one hand we're helping an organization become more customer centric, but my clients also have come to realize that for me, I'm mindful about the personal impact that it's having for on them.
Mhm.
And I love it because it elevates my relationship with them. I am no longer a vendor. I am becoming a partner, a guide. I'm getting invited to weddings. I'm getting invited to kids' parties and very personal events. And I'm
Wow.
like, all I did was just do my job, right? But that's the benefit. So I just wanted to share that with you, because I've struggled with that as well, because I get so fixated on doing a good job on that project. But as I've started focusing on that, um, I have realized that it has made me more customer centric in my business.
Mhm. I love it. As you're talking, it made me think back to one of the first CX workshops or training things that I went to. The facilitator, amazing, amazing job. And she was talking about how, CX is not just, can I get something done and what is the process? It's the emotional state. And that's huge for how am I feeling and really getting through this, but it's also for everybody involved in it. So not just that customer, but the employees. And are they feeling connected? Are they feeling as if they're being heard and their needs are being met? So I love that. I'm gonna steal that, and I'm gonna talk to
No,
people
thank you,
about.
thank you. And let me put another cherry on it. And this is for our viewers that may be in the supplier side right now. Being a guide and an advisor and looking out for the personal impact of your stakeholders may also sometimes mean saying no and rejecting or helping them reject a project. And when I first started talking about this, a lot of my clients said, wait a minute, you don't want to do this? Like, I thought that's what you were in business for, right? And I said, yeah, but look, it doesn't tie in well with the business impact that you've been charged to lead. This methodology does not. And if it's outside of our realm of expertise, don't talk to me. But just as since I'm looking out for your personal impact as well, you won't get this from this. And so
Mhm.
you have to say no, you have to reject it, because you're looking out for, because what's the point of doing something if it doesn't achieve both the business and the personal impact agenda items? So that's something I just want to put out there. I want viewers not to be that guide and say no when no needs to be said,
Mhm.
right? Because if you can do that, then you're truly customer centric and you're looking out for what's right. And that always serves you better in the long term than having a short 1 term or 2 term win.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're viewed as a value add partner as opposed to just some researcher or some, whatever over there, but value add. I know if I'm hiring out somebody, I'd much rather know someone that I can trust and that's looking out for me versus just, transactionally checking a box and bringing in a book of business.
Wonderful. We're at the end of our time, Andrea, but I think this was a fun, engaging discussion, and I so appreciate you coming, sharing your wisdom with our viewers. So thank you again.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Nitin. I've appreciated it, and like I said, I'm gonna steal some of the things you were talking about. So I definitely benefited from it as well.
You do that, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you.